Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today we do continue on with my least favorite WWF LJN tournament, and this is gonna be the third video here in round one. So we've completed 8 matchups so far. We looked at 16 figures, and that leaves us 16 figures remaining. So as I said in the very first video, we're only looking at 4 videos, 4 matchups here in round one. And I chose 32 figures because it really was difficult to get 64 figures. I really wanted this to be a much larger tournament than it is. We're looking at 5 rounds total, with the 4th round being the semifinals, round 5 being the finals. I may or may not combine those 2 rounds in one video, but the last few times I've made a tournament, I've actually been separating them, and I think I like that a little bit better, but a little bit more suspense, I guess. But we are going to continue on with my least favorite LJN tournament as we look at matchups 9 through 12. Alright, so with that being said, let's get our names drawn for this video. Matchup 1 is going to be Hakushi, and he does battle against Bob Orton. Next up is going to feature Ron Simmons, and he's going to do battle against, ooh, that is a tough one, Owen Hart, Rocket version. Haku versus Sting. Wait, what the heck is Sting doing in here? I put him in for a reason. Trust me. They all have a reason. Lex Luger, and he will square off against Dynamite Kid. So, last video was very Random Treasure heavy. This video is very Galoob heavy. Yes, the Galoob 2-ups are made by Random Treasures, but I don't consider them to be unique ideas. I mean, again, they're just blowing up existing figures. So alright, with our 8 names drawn, I'm going to pull the figures, and I will be back shortly. Alright, everybody, names have been drawn, or figures have been drawn, and we are ready to begin. So, first matchup we're going to look at is Hakushi versus Bob Orton. So, I don't know if it was episode 1, or it may have been last video. So, round 1, part 2. We saw manager Shinjo, and Shinjo and Hakushi were both purchased from the Raider Nation. You guys already know I've done videos from the Raider Nation in the past. Some of my absolute favorite figures come from them. So Justin, one of my favorite sellers, and of course he sells for his buddy Kenny Lester, who is an amazing artist. So a lot of the early figures that I picked up from the Raider Nation, like Honky Tonk Man, and you got Coco Beware. You know, later on, I think the 1-2-3 Kid was done really well. I like the Hercules figure, right? A lot of really good figures in the first time around. But I don't know, recently I don't want to say I've been disappointed, but I guess a lot of the figures that they're coming out with, like Powers of Pain and Demolition, I already got plenty of those figures, so I'd like something different. It took me a while to pick up Shinjo and Hakushi, but when I finally did, I was so happy because they are really great additions to this collection. Hakushi in particular, you know, I don't remember the name at all, but if you never said the name to me or anything like that, and you just showed me this figure, I would know exactly that he was a WWF wrestler because, I mean, the chest tattoos, you know, that's not something that you're ever going to forget, right? I don't know if the writing on the chest, if the writing is accurate or not. You know, could just say F you over and over again. But I'm assuming that everything is done exactly as on his actual body. But reason he's part of this particular tournament, not because it's a bad figure, but because it's taken after a Ricky Steamboat. You guys know I'm not a huge fan of the Ricky Steamboat figure. The fact that his only fighting is like a rake across the back, or type of deal. I don't like that. I mean, to take that out of the way, this is very well done. Even the way that they shave down the head, make the head a little bit more baldish. So that's then again, this figure's done really well. It's just that Ricky Steamboat, ugh, that scared hell out of me. Sorry, we got a bad heart. So anytime there's some kind of jumping going on, yeah, some of my LJNs fell off the shelf. Bob Orton. Again, this figure had such potential. Aesthetically, you look at the built-on vest and everything, this could be such an incredible piece, especially with the cowboy hat to boot. The only thing, I mean, yeah, the right arm being straight down, I mean, you could do a DDT. That's pretty much a DDT, that's it. The elbow, if his arm was out like this, a little bit, I guess, I could live with this, right? You could still do like one arm toss over or something, but I don't know what this is about. What's up with the whole fist backwards? I have no clue why anybody would use this as a customizable figure. And people do. People turn this into Razor Ramon. I'm like, dude, can you pick the worst figure? He is like Ron Simmons in the essence that he only has an elbow drop. That's literally his only attribute, his only fighting attribute, and that sucks. Aesthetically, this is a really solid looking figure. It is. Aesthetically, it's elite, I would say, almost. It's that the fighting pose is just garbage. And when you have a toy, toys are meant to be played with. I just can't see how fans or kids, when they were younger, would make any use of it whatsoever. There's so many figures out there, like the Jimmy Snuka, or like the Rick Rude, or like, Bob Orton. I'm like, if you guys had this, you probably had it because you were fans of wrestling and you wanted to collect everybody type of deal. This serves absolutely no purpose. To me, this match is an absolute no-brainer. Bob Orton is far worse than this figure by a mile. So, Bob Orton moves on to round 2 as one of the worst LJNs ever. Now, this one is probably going to be the toughest decision of this entire tournament. And it's only round 1. Ron Simmons versus Owen Hart. I'll start with Owen Hart. From the waist down, the guy, I think his name is Mike Teresa or something. I've seen his eBay channel, his YouTube channel, and I loved his customs. There was a custom I bought from him when I bought this, which was the Junkyard Dog version. They painted the skin tone, and they created a Jim Neidhart. That was an unbelievably perfect figure. I think I like that one even more so, or just as much as the original Jim Neidhart, which to me is a top 10 figure. And so I actually asked if I could I think it was like $90 for the pair. I'm like, I'll give you $60 or $70 just for Jim Neidhart. I really didn't want this, but then I kind of thought about it. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Just if you're going to spend $60, $70, you might as well just spend an extra $20, $30 and just get this one as well. I've seen this head. This is not the only time that a customizer has used this particular head as Owen Hart, but I don't know what you guys think, but to me, I don't know what that is, but that is not Owen Hart. Not even close. If you guys, sorry, I don't mean to yell at you. If you guys saw the Umbrella Academy, I think it was season 2 with like the Dutch serial killers. That's kind of like the face that, like the lead brother. That's kind of like what the face looks like. Oh my god! Like seriously, I've said it plenty. You look at this from the waist down, the color and detail is perfection. Phenomenal. I'm not even mad that they took a Macho Man body. I can live with that. Fighting arms, not my favorite. Mid-tier figure at best. I'm okay. But the head sculpt, the head looks nothing like him, and that kills it for me. That is horrendous. Another issues that I see around this figure. I mean, Mike, he does really great work, but I don't think he's like, it's something he does for fun, right? Yeah, he starts selling his extras on eBay and whatnot, trying to make some sales, but if the figures he creates, if he creates them for like his personal collection, this would probably be perfectly fine. But like as someone who wants to turn that into a business, this was done really poorly. I'm not hating on Mike. Like I said, I bought that Jim Neidhart from him. Fantastic. There are a lot of figures he's had I absolutely loved. There was a beautiful Nikolai Volkov with red Russian jacket, yellow, built on hat. It was incredible. $45. I don't know why I cheaped out on it and didn't purchase it because that was phenomenal. But this, and you look at the back of the neck, you can see where, he actually had to go over it and whatnot. I don't like it. So we move on to Ron Simmons. Because these are LJN format, I am including the Galoob 2-ups as part of this tournament. I've always said that Ron Simmons is quite possibly, throughout the course of my life, the worst action figure ever made. And if you simply look at them as, what was it described as to me? They were once described as small statues. They're hard enough. Yeah, I kind of agree. From a small statue, little knickknack you put on your fireplace mantle or something, the Galoob line did their figures really well. This, again, for a statue, a really nice figure. Nothing wrong with it. But, action figure, toys, right? Playable. I had Ron Simmons as a kid. He got a lot of use. I freaking hated it. I hated using this figure. And the only time I'd ever use him is for Royal Rumbles because you needed the guys. Like, I don't ever remember using him on one-to-one matchups or tag teams or anything like that. So, that whole fused arm, like, you would sit there and you would, like, pretend to do punches or something. And it just, or you kind of like throw a punch like that. It sucked. The only thing he could ever do is drop an elbow. He has a perfect elbow drop. And I can understand based on that why Ram Treasures turned Macho Man into Ron Simmons. It's for that elbow drop, but that is it. So here's the tough thing. Based on aesthetics, I really love the Ron Simmons a whole lot more than this Owen Hart. By like a large margin. And when it comes to these Galoob 2-ups, I am not hating on Ram Treasures not one bit with these. Because they created these figures to perfection. They are made exactly like your Series 1. Or, in my case, I request a bunch of Series 2 figures. So, because they're just basically blowing up existing figures, I don't hate on Ram Treasures for them. Again, they're done to perfection. It's just, the figure themselves, the design, which is, you could blame Galoob for that. I don't know. This really is a lot harder than I thought. I honestly thought that Ron Simmons was probably going to be in the bottom two. If by some miracle he didn't win, or in this case lose, by winning the tournament as the worst figure ever, I mean, he could at least come down to like bottom 2, bottom 4 or something. For me, I guess right now it's not necessarily about playability, right? It's got to be somewhat about the look of the figure. And even though because when I look at this figure, it gives me flashback of childhood and my disgust with having to play with this guy because it was just such a bad design. As an adult, with the 2-up version, rubber version, I like it a lot more because it it displays better. God help me. Ron Simmons is not going to lose this matchup. Or technically he is going to lose, meaning that Ron Simmons is not the worst LJN figure of all time. This Owen Hart might be, the head alone might make him the worst figure ever. And I'm sad to see that because I really like Owen Hart. I think Mike could have done this a little bit better. Could have made a better option. I was wondering why this was sticky. I actually taped this up because it was ripped. So, Owen Hart, moving on to round 2. Man. And number 3. Third matchup is going to feature Islander Haku as he squares off against Sting. We will start with Sting on this one. So, absolutely love Sting, right? Sting is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. Definitely the face of WCW. And the most important character, in my opinion, of WCW history. Here's the problem. This figure, for some reason, gets so much love. Figures like Tito Santana gets so much love. Ricky Steamboat, LJN, gets so much love. They're bad figures. I don't know why they're so coveted. From the Galoob line, figures like Arn Anderson and Sting, so many people are just gaga over those figures. And they're good. They're average. Maybe below average. I don't know. They're good figures. They're just not great figures. They don't give you the sort of playability that would make you happy, you know? Sid Vicious has that. Barry Windham has that. Butch Reed has that. And then you basically gotta, well, no. So those are obviously your top 3 figures. And then I'd probably put like Brian Pillman at number 4 and Rick Steiner at number 5. And then I'd put like Ric Flair at number 6 and maybe Sting would be like my 7th favorite based on the first series. Now, once you throw in Series 2 UK exclusive, it just throws everybody out of the loop, and they all just kind of throw them all over the place. But with the arm, especially for the Galoob 4-inch figure, you know, the arm straight up like that, it's not really the best playable figure. And you gotta kind of come over the top, you know. Otherwise, you're basically hitting him in the face with this part of your fist if you're sitting there and you're trying to wrestle as a kid, or you're throwing a lot of elbows to the face. So look at, like, no. Design-wise, with, like, the Scorpion and the face paint, which is always fantastic, yeah, Sting is a fantastic figure. And, again, one of my most beloved characters ever. But, from a playable standpoint, not a good figure. Not a good figure at all. I mean, I seriously believe, yeah, I think 7 out of 12 in the first series, is a fair replacement for this, because, you know, Ron Simmons is definitely going to be number 12. Number 11, I'd probably put either, I think I'd put Tom Zank at number 11. I'd put Ron Simmons at 12, Lex Luger at 11, Tom Zank at 10, Scott Steiner at 9. And I feel like I'm missing someone. Yeah, I'm missing someone. Oh, Arn Anderson. So Arn Anderson would be number 8. That's how I break it down. 1 through 12 based on the first series. So, not even, you know, half the figures in that series are better than him. So, with Haku, I don't know, man. Like, when you look at Haku, right, I think that based on the Islander pants design, this is a fantastic look to the figure. And, you know, body looks pretty decent. I mean, you think of, who was Haku? I'm trying to think. So I know Fatu came out to be the head shrinkers, and he eventually became Rikishi. I think they're all from the same family, if I'm not mistaken. Well, it's Samoans, Haku, the head shrinkers. For a second, I was trying to think if Haku and Fatu are the same person. Just too many names, too many get-ups. So it's like it's really hard to like. And every time you learn something new, old facts kind of exit your brain. So, but yeah, Haku really had a shot of being an awesome figure. But the way that the arms are positioned, it sucks. Because you start getting in there and you try to like body slam them, because it's rubber, you can sit there and stretch the arms out. But then what happens? Then the wristbands start to peel and whatnot. So it kind of ruins the figure. I mean, coming down, slamming him face forward, kind of like what Ricky Steamboat would do as a finisher. I mean, no, just not fun. In this battle, I think it's pretty obvious. I like Sting a lot better, which means the Haku is moving on to round 2. So, last matchup is going to pit Lex Luger against Dynamite Kid. Dynamite Kid is one of those figures, or one of those characters I never knew about, not until I started collecting LJNs. Now, as the years have passed, I've obviously watched a lot of YouTube videos and read a lot of reviews because I wanted to learn more about Dynamite Kid. Just like I wanted to learn about a lot of the other characters from LJN that I never grew up or knew about. And, watching old matches with the British Bulldogs, Dynamite Kid he would have fit in beautifully with like today's modern wrestler, like the Hardys, for example. All these high flyers that do like all these special acrobatics and whatnot. So I immediately became impressed and became a favorite of this character. But I also hear that Dynamite Kid was also a total asshole. Well, I know about the story about Jacques Rougeau and basically Dynamite getting his ass beat because he got punched out with like a fistful of quarters or something like that. I gotta go find that video again because he was always screwing with the Mountie, and you know what? When you get messed with so much, you don't want to take that crap anymore. Especially when you're a professional athlete, it's like you beat up guys for a living. What the heck? And Dynamite Kid was so much smaller than everyone else. But you have guys like Bad News Brown who had his back and wanted to whoop the Mountie's butt after that. But obviously, back issues and other health problems took Dynamite out of the ring way too soon. He didn't die. He just had to retire. It allowed British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith to move forward on a singles run. And like I said, Davey Boy to me is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And Davey Boy actually died way too soon. I think Davey Boy was like 40 when he died. Maybe 39. And that's sad, man. One of the greatest talents out there. And that's one of my personal... I haven't made a video yet. I keep talking about the celebrities that have died that have really impacted your life. I think British Bulldog is definitely one of those guys that could be on that list. I've cherished that man since childhood. To me, that's a true legend. So, the British Bulldogs, I didn't choose any of the British Bulldog customs in this tournament. I just went with the originals only. They're pretty decent figures. They're smaller than a lot of the others, but they're adequate figures. The problem that I have with this figure is the same one that I have with like a Bad News Brown, with the arm just straight up, right? When I use these figures, it's like jump off the turnbuckle with the flying clothesline. That is literally the only move I could think of to use this. Yeah, you could get underneath, do like a one-arm body slam, but depending on the figure's pose, it's not always the best. So, I get it. A lot of people are obsessed with these figures, use them like crazy. I'm not going to hate on figures like this. For fans that grew up with loving Jimmy Snuka, disagree 100%. Ricky Steamboat, disagree 100%. Tito Santana, disagree 100%. For those that absolutely were loved and were obsessed with the British Bulldogs action figures, not 100% disagree, 30%, 40% maybe. they're definitely playable figures. They're enjoyable to an extent. Just not the most perfect pose ever. So I think if these arms were kind of like lowered and this one went up a little bit, just look how much of a difference that makes, and that would have made it so much better. He goes up against Lex Luger. Another one of those figures that I went with the Series 2 UK exclusive design. So having the blue, obviously Series 1, as a kid, I used Lex Luger. You know, you kind of had to. You're kind of forced to use the figures that you had as a kid. And when you wanted to put these 30-man Royal Rumbles together, you had to go use other figures. You had to use that football player from Ghostbusters, or the werewolf from the Ghostbusters, or what else do I see on here? Jackalman, or the other cat monster from, Panthro from Thundercats. You know, figures like that, right? Or I'd go with the Incredible Hulk bendable figure, or the Harry and the Hendersons bendable figure. They were all part of that Royal Rumble. You used it because you had it and you wanted to put together a full matchup. So, but the whole idea of kind of like going over the head to throw a punch, and doing a little fake body slam, I can't stand it. Here's the thing: it really does show that size does matter in certain cases, because the King Kong Bundy LJN, I am obsessed with that figure. I love the bulkiness and weight to the figure. And yeah, even though he's got this crabby pose, King Kong Bundy LJN is one of my favorite go-to figures. If I were ever going to do like some kind of, wrestling matches on here for you guys or something, or for the kids that might watch or something, I don't know. I feel like King Kong Bundy would be one of those guys that would go back and forth as heavyweight champion. And I would team him up with Big John Studd, and they'd be constant tag team champions going back and forth. So I really enjoy King Kong Bundy. So it does show that some figures do work. George Steele, same pose. Don't enjoy it as much, not even close. Lex Luger, I've never used the upscale 2-up LJN style. I'm just simply going off of memory from using the original Galoob as a kid. The total package to me was nothing more than a DDT guy. That was it. You do a DDT, but you can't really throw a punch or body slam, so horrendous. To me, I always felt like Galoob, Lex Luger had to be on my list of top 5 all-time worst, I keep calling them LJN, 5 all-time worst figures. The Series 2 upgrade to this figure helps offset a little bit. It's based on design, but the pose does not do it justice. And like I said, man, Random Treasures, when they made their Galoob 2-ups, they made them to perfection. I'm not knocking Random Treasures because they're just blowing up the figure that already exists. But still, for Galoob created a lot of phenomenal figures. And when you get into the Series 2, their figures just explode. Amazing. But I always feel like because of the bad figures, like Lex Luger and Ron Simmons, it really, even like the Scott Steiner and the Tom Zank, because figures like that, it really makes me feel like they're a worse line than they should be. So instead of being like a top 5 line for me, they're probably probably top 10 at best. And that's just because out of necessity, partly because it brings back memories, nostalgia for me. So with this matchup, I mean, we're not even going to pretend that we don't know the answer. Of course, Dynamite Kid is a better figure. Lex Luger is going on round 2, among the least favorite figures. So, 12 figures are in the books, and 12 are moving on round 2. That leaves 8 figures remaining. We will do round 4, and that will complete the first round. And yeah, if you guys kind of feel differently about anything I'm saying, definitely feel free to leave a comment. Let me know your feelings, who you think should have won, or why, or whatnot. I always love to hear from you guys, hear your opinions and your thoughts. So, That is it for this video, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see you, everyone.